Welcome back to Ride JBI. I'm JB. Today we finished up a JBI spec revalve and shock lowering on this WP XPLOR Pro 8946 Pro shock. This shock's gonna be outfitted to a 2024 KTM 300 XCW Hard Enduro. This shock got our Hawaiian off-road spec, and that is a specific setting we have for riders in the Hawaii Islands. They tend to have very challenging and tropical terrain, and because of that, they need their own specific setting when it comes to the off-road riders. For this specific rider, we told him that the front forks that he has, the new WP exact closed cartridge forks, work really well, and there's a lot of potential in them in terms of how much better we can make them from stock. But I did share with him that the stock shock on the bike did not have as much potential in terms of us being able to improve it and make it work as good as the forks. So he asked me what would be the best match, and I informed him it would be this shock absorber right here. Right out of the box, it works really, really well, but it would definitely be too stiff for the terrain and obstacles that he's going to be encountering in Hawaii. Therefore, this setting is very similar to our technical single track setting, meaning it's quite a bit softer, so that way this shock can be very compliant. For the type of riding that they do, they have very minimal traction. It's often wet in Hawaii due to it raining often, a lot of moss on the backside of rocks and on the logs that have fallen down as well. So because of that, traction is at a premium, meaning any traction they can get, they really value, but usually the bike's sliding around a lot. And when that happens, you need suspension that's not overly stiff or too stiff at all, because that's going to compound any loss of traction that you have. You need suspension that's on pretty soft of a setting, so that way as you're getting traction and hitting obstacles, the wheel's able to compress and move out of the way. This shock, again, has very good stock specs, but it would definitely be on the firm side for that. So we went ahead and we softened it up to our JBI Hawaiian off-road specs. And we also lowered the shock a little bit as well. So when this rider gets this suspension, his seat height is going to be pretty much an inch lower than it is stock. That was requested from the customer himself. He felt like he wanted to have an easier time touching the ground. So I informed of him that we can fit the bike to better fit you as a rider. All suspension can be lowered, but I always inform people that as we remove travel from a shock or fork, you now have less time or less travel to absorb the bumps and obstacles you're going to encounter. So you're requesting more out of your suspension. So it's not a bad thing to lower it, you just have to understand the trade-offs that come with it. Now for this specific riding, off-road riding, when you do lower a bike, you're not giving up a lot of performance. When you lower a bike for motocross and other high-speed off-road riding, that's where, as you lower the bike, you start to lose some performance due to the lack of travel that you have given up. But for these more slower speed, technical off-road riding applications, the compromise in lowering the bike is a lot less. In this case, this rider is going to be really happy because the bike is going to fit them a lot better. So not only is that going to help them confidence-wise, mentally as they ride, knowing that they can easily put their feet down to balance themselves as they ride technical terrain, but that's also going to help with them just feel more confident as they ride, knowing that they can manhandle the bike just as anybody else can. With that in mind, we did a really cool revalve on the forks as well to match to this shock, but we're talking about that in another video. We have some awesome product pages on ridejbi.com. We have one product page on this JBI spec shock itself that gives you all the details about what's unique about this shock compared to the OEM stock one, and then also what makes it a JBI spec, meaning what exactly we do to the shock to further improve it for each individual rider. We also have a specific revalve page as well. So if you already own one of these shocks and you like to get it custom tuned and better set up for you specifically, we have a revalve page for that also to tell you what we can do, how we do it, and most importantly, what you should expect as a rider when you get your suspension back and what you should expect to feel. We're going to be seeing a lot more of these shocks because the stock WP XPLOR shock, it works pretty good, but it leaves a lot to be desired for the more experienced riders and the people that want to revalve their shock. So a lot of those individuals are picking up these ones pretty quickly, and this is going to be a very popular setup. Thank you for checking out this video. All JBI suspension services and parts can be found at ridejbi.com.